From April 2006 through January 2011, nearly 2.3 million construction jobs were wiped out in the United States during the Great Recession. Ever since then, the construction industry has not been able to make up for this loss of skilled labor. There's not only a labor shortage in the field, there's also, in 2019, a leadership gap in the field and in the office. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. I see many construction companies where the senior leadership is in their 50s and 60s, and they look behind them and they see the next generation of leadership is many times in their 30s. They're ambitious and they're energetic, but they lack the technical and life experience that helps leaders to be effective. This is particularly true when choices like marriage and having kids are being delayed or avoided altogether in many cases. In my experience, there's something indispensable about having a spouse and kids to being an effective leader. 3 things I can think of off the top of my head in terms of what that helps you to achieve as a leader is, number 1, a sense of humility. There's nothing like a defiant 2-year-old to show you that your leadership skills and your ability to control situations is sometimes not as great as you think it is. And also, when you have a spouse and kids, you really get that sense of commitment. And if you're going to be an effective leader, you must be committed. And along with that commitment comes a commitment to selflessness. And you learn selflessness by doing your duty over a long period of time. And so there's a need in the construction industry for young leaders to step up. Let me give you a case in point. I received a message on LinkedIn from Sina Bahmani. He's a young construction leader from Sweden. This is what he said. I love your podcast, Construction Genius. The content is very valuable for me, and I've recommended the podcast to all my colleagues. I work as a design manager in Sweden, and something I would love to see is if you had an episode about how we as young managers can lead our teams when we still don't have so much experience in different technically advanced areas. I've listened to episode number 5, but I feel that it was more from the employer perspective. This is a big issue in Sweden and probably in other parts of the world as well, where we have a generation shift and many young professionals in a highly demanding positions. Sina, thank you so much for this message. And just a word to my audience. I'm on LinkedIn all of the time, and you can connect with me there and send me messages specifically about questions that you have regarding the podcast, topics that you'd like me to share, and any feedback that you have. I'm always looking to improve the podcast. I appreciate that message. And based on Sina's message to me, I'd like to address today how young construction managers can be effective leaders. And there's 3 things we're going to talk about. Number 1, if you're a young construction manager and you want to be an effective leader, you must face reality. Number 2, lay a strong foundation. And then finally, act like an adult. And don't get me wrong, when I say act like an adult, it's not in a condescending way. I'm almost 50, and I know plenty of people my age, even sometimes myself, that don't act like adults. And I'm going to define for you very clearly what I mean by acting like an adult, and actually give you 14 tips for behaviors that demonstrate adult-like leadership. Okay, so let's dive right into this. The first thing you need to do as a young manager who wants to be an effective leader is you must face reality. And the first part about facing reality is that you're not that hot. And let me tell you what I mean by that. It's the fall here in the United States, and football has just started. Not soccer, but American football, the NFL. And I've got to admit, I love the NFL. My favorite team is the San Francisco 49ers. And even when they suck, I'll sit on the couch on a Sunday afternoon and yell at the TV. When my other sports teams that I like the San Francisco Giants or even Liverpool, when they're not doing well, I won't watch because I'm just not that interested. But my football team, if it's not doing well, I'll still watch. And I love the football. I love the NFL. But you know what? It's a violent sport. And I'm not going to let my kids play football. I might let them play rugby, but I won't let them play football because it's so violent. And injuries are happening all of the time. And there's this phrase that you hear all the time when coaches are being asked about their injured players. When someone's injured and they go out for the year, the phrase they use is this: next man up. Next man up. They have no choice. They have a schedule, right, of games. They've got a game that they've got to play next week. They've got fans that they need to entertain. They have all of these obligations. And so when one player goes down, no matter how good they are, the next man has to step up. And the reality is, in the construction trade, if you've been promoted into a place of leadership and you're relatively young, you may think that you're pretty sweet, but in reality, you may just be the next man up or the next woman up. So don't get a fat head when you get that new position. Second thing is you don't know far more than you know. And you know in your gut that this is true, right? There's three things that you need to really dive into in terms of your knowledge as you're facing the reality of being in a leadership role and yet lacking perhaps some of the experience that older folks have. You need first institutional knowledge. You need to get to know your company very well. One of my clients that I work with, they've been around for over 100 years. There's a depth of institutional knowledge and history that truly is profound. And if you're in a leadership role in a company that's been around for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, there's some knowledge there that you need to grasp. What are the values of the company? And how are they lived out on a daily basis? Do you understand the strategy that the company is pursuing? Do you understand the niche that you're going after? Do you understand the value proposition of the company and what it is that the company does that no other company does? Where are the levers of power in the organization? How do things really get done in a pinch? Who gets stuff done? Who's the person you need to go to get supplies and equipment ordered to make sure that your project is successful? Who's really an expert at organizing crews or finding crews to man a job when the schedule is tight and the pressure is on? Who's an expert at getting bills paid, making sure that your subs are paid, or making sure that the money that you're owed is actually gotten into the organization? You've got to grow in your institutional knowledge. The second thing is that you must grow in your technical knowledge. There is no substitute for time in the seat. And you can go to school, you can read books, you can be up on the latest cutting edge technology, but there is no substitute for time in the industry. Because you see, construction is not just a science, it is an art. There is both a craft and a science to the business of construction. And you need to learn not only what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, but why it needs to be done. You need to get that feel, that instinct for the technical aspects of your trade, and that simply takes time. And then the third thing that you need to grow in is not just institutional knowledge and technical knowledge, but relational knowledge. And just because you are in a leadership position, it doesn't mean that you have arrived. You need to spend extra time getting to know people, building relationships, and building credibility with folks. So you've got to face reality. You're not that hot. You don't know far more than you know. And then you must face reality that you have an incredible opportunity. One of the things that young people have that older people tend to lack is energy. There is an energy to youth that is at times infectious, but is undeniable. I want to encourage you, if you're a young manager or a leader, make the most of the energy that you have while you're young. Don't waste it chasing pipe dreams, but discipline yourself and focus your energy on being the very best leader that you can be. So take care of yourself. I know young people, they like to drive themselves extremely hard, stay up late, get up early and all that kind of stuff. And perhaps you can do that when you're in your 20s or into your 30s. But let me just encourage you, manage your energy when you're young, and you'll be able to exploit that energy to really have a positive impact. So get the sleep that you need. Make sure that you're not eating too much and especially not drinking too much. So be moderate as far as that's concerned. And get regular exercise, okay? Instead of blowing off steam, yelling at people when things aren't going well, get to the gym, lift some weights and blow off some steam, or go out for a run or get on your bike or whatever you need to do. Make sure that you are managing that energy because it's a precious thing for you to use while you are young. And another aspect of youth that really sets a lot of folks apart is the ambition. You young leaders, you've got fire in your belly. And you can't really teach that. As people get older, they tend to mellow a little bit, but you want to harness that fire and ensure that you direct your ambition in the right way. Temper your ambition with a degree of humility. Get your head up, look for opportunities. And when you become a leader in an organization, realize that you can be an entrepreneur. You have an opportunity in your own business to perhaps pursue new lines of work or new ways of doing things, and that can have a massive positive impact in your organization. And the other aspect of the opportunity that you have is that you have time. Now, the days are long, but the years and the months are very short. If you're in your 20s or if you're in your 30s, you have another 20, 30, 40 years perhaps to go in your career. And so be patient. You're not going to learn everything overnight. You may be a young man or woman in a hurry, but you're not necessarily going to get where you want to go immediately. So be patient. Take a long-term view. Tell yourself, I'm on a 20-year journey. And then get started today with the initial steps on that journey so that you can go where it is that you'd like to go. Once you understand and face reality, the second thing you need to do to become an effective leader is to lay a strong foundation. So I have a tool I use with my clients. I know I mention it a lot on this podcast, and I love it because it's very simple. It's called the Construction Leaders Dashboard. I'm going to mention a couple of aspects of the dashboard here today that you should be thinking about as you're in your leadership role and you're wanting to improve. The first thing is, what's your vision? You know, you can get so much done in 3 to 5 years. You may not be able to get a lot done in one day, but in 3 to 5 years, man, you can get a lot done. So what's your vision for your leadership role? Where do you want to be as a leader in 3 to 5 years from now? Try and paint a vivid picture of the responsibilities that you have, of the role that you're playing, of the things that you've learned, of the people that you've influenced. Paint that vivid picture and cast a vision for yourself for the next 3 to 5 years. Then as you're in the leadership role, ask yourself, what are your values? There's an old saying, right, that power corrupts. And as you get into leadership roles, you have a sense of authority or power, and it can have a corrupting influence on you. What are the values that guide you in your career that are non-negotiable? How is it that you're going to show up every day with the people that you lead? How are you going to behave? What are you going to do and what are you not going to do? I'll give you an example. One of the values in my life is to stand on the shoulders of giants. I know in many ways I'm an incredibly ignorant man, but there's many people who've come before me who know way more about business, about life, and about leadership. And I go to those giants and I stand on their shoulders. I like to learn from other people because in learning from other people, especially from old sources of wisdom, not necessarily the new and the latest business books, but the old books. I like reading old books that have been around for a while. The longer a book has been around, the more likely it's to have wisdom in there that can help you in your leadership. So what are the values that you have? Here's some examples. One value you might want to adopt or express is that of tenacity. Another one in construction, which is essential, is communication. The most successful construction leaders are master communicators. Another one is collaboration. We all know that construction's a team sport. You can't do it alone. Another one is challenge. Are you willing to take on the challenge every day of getting up, putting your boots on, getting out to the job site, and figuring out the challenges that you face? Another one is winning. Construction is a game that you play to win. And to win in construction, you must build the right projects safely, and you must build them on time, and you must build them under budget, and do all of that while maintaining your internal and external relationships. Another one is integrity. Is your word your bond? Do you show up on time? Do you do what you say you're going to do? Are you a man or woman of integrity? Perhaps another one could be quality. Are you committed to quality? Are you committed to making sure that every project you build, you're proud of so that you can drive down the street and you can point to the project and you can say, we built that? So give some thought to the values that drive your leadership. And then another thing for you to think about is, what is your edge? What do others say that you do very well? And I'm not asking this so that you might get a fat head or start boasting about yourself, but if you're in a place of leadership, it's likely that you do one or two things very well. And one of the secrets in life is identifying what you do very well and concentrating on doing that thing or those things as much as you can while delegating to others perhaps those areas of weakness that are not essential to your role and responsibility. What is your edge? What value do you bring? You know, I was having a very interesting conversation today with one of my clients, and he's a mid-level manager in a construction company. But you know what? He's an entrepreneur. He has an entrepreneurial mindset. I was asking him what one of his biggest wins of the week was, and he was describing to me a new product that he had discovered was being offered that would help him to win more work with the target market that he was going after. And he embraced that new product. He got certified in that new product. It enabled him to bid new types of work and open up new doors for his organization. So his edge is that he's extremely entrepreneurial. And not only is he entrepreneurial in going out and getting new types of work, but he's also into building better mousetraps. So when they get the work, he's very much focused on innovating the way that his company builds the work so they can be as profitable as possible. So what is your edge? Take time to define that. And if you're not sure, go to someone that you trust who's not going to blow smoke up your butt and ask them, what is it that I do best? What do you see me doing well? So here are some steps that you might want to take in terms of your leadership. Write down the top 1 to 3 assignments or projects or achievements that you need in order to develop your expertise and track record as a leader. Think about the top 1 to 3 skills or areas of knowledge that you need to grow in. I'll give you another example. Think about the one area that you know is a part of your role and responsibility, but you have trouble embracing it. You have trouble learning it because you're not naturally good at it. When I was in high school, I almost didn't graduate. Now, I was a lousy student, right? I was really good at history and English. I got A's in history and English all the time, and everything else, I got D's. I was not a good student. And the reason I wasn't a good student is because I didn't study hard. But in my mind, I thought that the reason I wasn't good at those other subjects is because I didn't get them. So I was taking a biology class, and I was in the last semester of high school, and I was failing the biology class. But I had to pass the class in order to graduate from high school. And so therefore, on the last test of the class, I needed to get an A. And an amazing thing happened. Part of my role and responsibility as a high school student was to get an A so I could pass that class. And so I began to study the topic that we were covering. And the more I studied it, the more I realized that I understood it and I grasped it and I began to enjoy it, and a miracle happened. I got an A on that test, and therefore I was able to graduate from high school. Now, the lesson for you in terms of that technical knowledge that you might need, that you may not be comfortable with, is embrace the pain and the challenge of learning something new, and understand that there are aspects of your job that may not be comfortable, but you have to get comfortable with those aspects if you're going to be a successful leader. Another thing as far as steps are concerned are, who are your mentors? Who are the industry leaders, the functional experts, the key people that you need to know? Who are the folks inside and outside of your organization who can really help you to move forward in your career as a leader? And then finally, what about any specific formal education or training that will help you achieve your vision as a leader? Give some thought to that, make a note of those things, and make sure that you are focused in on those. And by the way, I'm going to leave those suggestions or those steps in the show notes so that you have them. Once you've faced reality and then laid a strong foundation, the last thing that you need to do to not only be a manager, but an effective construction leader is you must act like an adult. I'm going to give you 14 ways that you can act like an adult. Listen carefully for the one or two that resonate with you, and make sure that you make mental note and application for how you can use them. So the first one is be patient. Don't be in a hurry as a young leader. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be energetic in executing your role, but be patient in terms of your career trajectory. Don't be in a hurry. Build your career, consistently improve your technical and people skills. Be patient with yourself. You're going to make mistakes. When you make a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Look yourself in the mirror, take accountability for the mistake that you've made, fix it if you need to, and then move on. But be patient with yourself. Then be patient with other people. Now, as you come into this leadership role, perhaps you have been chosen over someone who's older than you, someone who's been around a little bit longer, but for whatever reason, you've been picked. And they may resent you as a result of your promotion. Let me encourage you, be patient with people. Sometimes life does not go our way, and we have to fight through and struggle with circumstances that are not to our liking. So be patient with others. If you demonstrate patience with others, they'll show it with you. And another thing is to be patient in your executive meetings. If you're a young up-and-comer, you may walk into executive meetings with other leaders in your company and be full of tons of different ideas. But understand that you need to build credibility with the executive team before you can come in and give all of your great ideas. So be patient in those executive meetings. Okay, the second piece of advice in terms of acting like an adult is to be useful. Think about all the work that you need to do. If you ever get to a point when you've finished your role and responsibility in the leadership role that you have, get your head up and look to help other people. Look to be a servant to others and be useful to them. And not only the people that you work with directly in your department, but perhaps branch out to the rest of your company as you have time. Understand that you have a new role and that you must not only advocate for your team, but you must also have that perspective of helping the team as a whole, because that's what leaders do in construction companies, is they overcome the natural silos that occur in construction and seek to be of benefit to the entire organization. So be useful. The next one is don't be jealous. Be happy when others in your company do well. When you get promoted into a leadership role, you may find other young leaders promoted into leadership roles as well. And there can be this sort of natural competition, right? The young bucks going at it together, right? Let me just encourage you. Don't get jealous when someone does well, when someone's project kicks butt, when someone knocks it out of the park. Instead, find out why they succeed. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that they got lucky, okay? Maybe they did something differently that you're not doing. And so you should ask them, what was it that you did on that project that helped you to bring it in under budget and on time? And when you find out what they did, imitate them and seek also to help them to greater heights. If you see someone in your organization particularly who has a skill or an ability that you don't have, and you understand how they might be able to leverage that skill to benefit the organization, promote them to use that skill as much as possible. Don't be jealous. Number 4, don't boast. Allow the quality of your work to speak for itself. Quality in construction screams nice and loud. You don't need to lobby for recognition. You just need to work. And if you're going to boast, boast about the work of the people on your team, particularly the work that people do that you're not good at. Okay, don't do some sort of fake boasting in your team that really shows how awesome a leader you are, but recognize people in your team that are doing things that you're not that good at. Boast in others, not in yourself. That leads me to number 5. Don't get a fat head. Okay, you haven't made it when you get into that leadership role. So don't get sloppy and lazy. Don't allow success to inflate your ego, but always be thinking what you can do to improve and increase your contribution and impact. One successful project isn't enough. One good year isn't enough. To be successful in construction, play the long game of incremental improvement, project after project, year after year. Have the mindset as a leader that I'm always learning, I'm always growing, I'm always improving. Number 6, and this is really important in our extremely childish world. Adapt yourself to others. Great leaders are willing to adapt themselves to others without violating their values. Study how others prefer to communicate, how they like to work, and ask yourself, how can I adapt myself to contribute to their success? Now, in light of communication, if you're young particularly, let me encourage you, less email and more phone calls and more face-to-face. Number 2, if you're working with older people, adapt your language to the older generation. Don't think that they need to learn the latest buzzwords and phrases that you know. If the older generation's a bit basic, be merciful to them. You don't need to bust out language that they don't understand. Communicate directly and respectfully with the older generation. Don't use your technical knowledge as a weapon, but use it as a tool to help others. And when you go into the field, particularly if you're in construction, particularly if you know what, I haven't had as much time in the field as perhaps other folks have, just be yourself when you go into the field. You don't have to front. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to try and be some rough, tough construction dude if you're not. Just be yourself. Earn credibility by going out into the field, looking your guys and your gals in the eyes and asking them, what do you need? How can I help? And then when they tell you what they need and when they tell you how you can help, make sure that you do whatever you can in your power to get them what they need in order to be successful. Number 7, stop worrying about a raise or a promotion. Good help is hard to find. Focus on being good help, and perks, raises, bonuses, and promotions will follow. If you're working for a good company and you are good help, financially, you will have no problems in construction. Number 8, don't get offended. When you work in the adult world, you're not in college and you're not in high school anymore. In the real world, people have different opinions. They have different perspectives. They have different lifestyles. There's different religions. There's different political views. There's different outlooks on life. Get used to it. Don't get offended. Don't be a stick in the mud. Don't always expect people to communicate with you in the way that you want. But like I said earlier, adapt yourself for the benefit of others. And number 9, don't keep track of offenses. You're going to get screwed over, passed over, dissed. Bad stuff is going to happen. There's an old saying from the book of Job, like sparks fly upward, so man is born for trouble. You know what? People are going to offend you. People are going to do you wrong. Don't keep track of those offenses. It's a waste of your time and your energy. Just keep working, doing your best, and making a contribution. Number 10, help others when they fail. Sometimes, unfortunately, when we see others fail, we get a sense of satisfaction sometimes, and that's not a good thing. Don't be happy when others fail. Don't be happy when your rival screws something up. Instead, try and help them recover. Maybe they'll be there and help you through your failures. Number 11, recognize others. Notice people excelling and specifically and sincerely praise them and tell others about their efforts. And this should happen across the board. And let me give you some examples. In construction, it takes a team to build a project. The guys in the field need to build successfully. The folks in the office need to do the billing successfully. The project needs to be managed. The estimators need to do well. Everyone has a role to play, even the guys driving the trucks out to the job site or the folks working in the shop. As a leader, make a point of sincerely recognizing the hard work that people do, and make sure that you're personally going to them and thanking them for the work that they do. This is one of the keys to being a successful leader. Walk amongst the troops. Don't stay up in your ivory tower. Don't get stuck on your phone. Put your phone down, get out of the office, walk out to people and recognize them. Number 12, don't gossip. As you get into leadership roles, you're going to hear things, perhaps in executive meetings, that you've never heard before. You'll hear things about the company that perhaps surprise you and could even shock you. Don't gossip about them. You're going to hear and see stuff that you haven't heard and seen before. Let me say, don't be surprised, okay? We're all human beings, and you know what? Many times human beings are pretty screwed up and they do some stupid stuff. Don't gossip about it. Now, if you need to say something to somebody about ethics or something like that, or behavior that's unacceptable, of course, go and talk to the right people. But gossip is another thing. Getting around the water cooler and talking about so-and-so and how they suck, don't get into that. You'll be tempted to join that water cooler talk, and that's a complete waste of time. Number 13, be brave. Be brave. As you get into that leadership role and you're young and you're wanting to make a strong contribution, you're going to get into conflict with people. So make sure that in your leadership role, you're holding people accountable for what they say they're going to do. Commit to having the difficult conversations that you need to have on a regular basis, and make sure, when possible, you're having those conversations face to face. And last, be generous. Be generous with your time for those who report to you. Meet them in person when possible. Be generous with the sharing of resources. Resources are tight many times in a construction company. Resources of equipment or resources of people. It's not all about you and the projects that you're responsible for. Get your head up a little bit and think about the overall good of the organization, and be generous. Understand that you're playing a long game with a company that's playing a long game, and you won't necessarily be judged by the profitability of one job. So if you have to share resources and your profit suffers just a little bit, be okay with that. But don't withhold resources and stick to your silos and damage your company when it's not necessary. Be generous. So, in conclusion, if you're a young manager and you want to be a successful leader, the three things you need to do is, number 1, face reality. Number 2, lay a strong foundation. And number 3, act like an adult. And as I go through all of this, I know that you might be thinking, Eric, this is kind of overwhelming. There's so much that I need to do in order to be effective. And I understand that. And that's why you must commit to incremental improvement over a long period of time. If you're just 1% better as a leader every 90 days, that's going to have a huge impact on you in your career over the course of 3, 5, or 10 years. So next steps for you, I encourage you, go out and get the Construction Leaders Dashboard. I'll put a link in the show notes. One of my clients, Chris Barkley, he's at Tykert Construction. And this is what he says about the dashboard. The structure of Eric's coaching process has been beneficial. Our business ramps up in the summer, and when things are going crazy, our guys keep our field operations running smoothly. And the guys that I work with at Teichert Construction include general superintendents. So back to what Chris said here about the dashboard. They tell me that using the Construction Leaders Dashboard framework that Eric introduced to them has been awesome because they've been able to put pen to paper, clarify their personal goals, and relate them to their leadership responsibilities and Teichert's objectives. It's helped to simplify their focus and anchor them back into what they've committed to accomplishing this season. So go out and check out the Leadership Dashboard. The link is in the show notes. And I really want to thank Sina for reaching out to me on LinkedIn with that question. And as I said earlier, if you have any questions for me regarding the podcast, go out to LinkedIn. My name, Eric Anderton. You can find me there. And shoot me a message. Connect with me. Shoot me a message if you're already connected. Ask your specific questions. I promise that I will respond personally to those as soon as I can. And I'm very grateful for all the positive response I've gotten for this podcast. I encourage you to go out to Apple and to Google Podcasts, to subscribe, to give us a 5-star review if you think we've earned it, and to continue to share this with your friends. All right, so it's Friday afternoon when I am recording this. It's 5:16 p.m. My 4-year-old has a soccer game at 6 o'clock. I'm going off to coach him. It's going to be fun. I promise to sit on the bench and not get too excited. My name's Eric Anderton. Thanks again for checking out Construction Genius Podcast, and I look forward to catching you on LinkedIn, and I'll see you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit. And always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity. And to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.